What's going on, everyone? Coach Michael Album here with the Roofstock Academy. And today I want to talk to everybody about kind of an interesting topic, and that's how cash flow and cash on cash return percentage as a metric play on one another. So a lot of us who are just getting started are investing in properties that are a little bit more affordable. They might be in that $80,000, $100,000, $120,000, $150,000 price point range because we're just getting started. And so we want to learn the fundamentals on a property at a price point where we're comfortable with the down payment amount. And you might be looking at some different metrics. You might be looking at cap rate, you might be looking at cash on cash return, and you might be looking at cash flow. And if those terms are new to you, definitely check out some of the other videos that we put together, which define and walk you through what those are. But if you are familiar with what those metrics are, and we're going to take an example property here, I'm going to make up some numbers. On a $100,000 property, let's say you're making $150 a month in cash flow. And let's say you put traditional 20% down. So with a 20% down on a 100 grand property, that means you're putting down 20K. You're going to be generating $150 a month in cash flow. That means that you're bringing in $1,800 a year in terms of cash flow. When we divide that number by the amount that you put in, which is 20 grand, we end up with 9%. So on this $100,000 property, you're bringing in $1,800, that yields a 9% cash on cash return. Well, if you've got an issue with the property, let's say a circuit breaker blows and you've got to have an electrician come out and it costs you $200 to fix it, above and beyond what you've already budgeted for. Well, now your cash flow went negative for a month. And that $200 is a fairly sizable portion of your overall return. So let's say that happens twice in a year. You have a plumber call and an electrician call that was above and beyond what you budgeted for repair and maintenance. So now that $1,800 figure is reduced by $400. That means you're bringing in $1,400 for the year. And you remember your initial investment was 20K. That drops your cash on cash return to 7%. And so we had two instances of a maintenance call that was above and beyond what we expected, and our cash on cash return dropped by 2%. Let's take another example. Let's use a $300,000 price point property, and we're bringing in $350 a month in cash flow. So the purchase price tripled, and the cash flow that we're making a little bit more than doubled. So at $350 a month, over the course of a year, we're actually going to be bringing in $4,200. That's what we're putting in our pocket after we've paid the property taxes, insurance, mortgage, all of the traditional expenses associated with the property. So now let's determine what our cash on cash return is on that $300,000 purchase price when we're bringing in $4,200 a year. Again, we're going to be putting 20% down. And so 20% of 300,000 is 60 grand. Well, we're bringing in 4,200 a year and we had to pay 60 to get it. That's a 7% cash on cash return. So now let's think about that same instance where we had two issues during the year above and beyond what our traditional repair and maintenance budget allowed for. And it's that same $200 because a plumber going to a $100,000 house to fix a leak is going to charge the same amount to go to a $300,000 house to fix the same style of leak, because a leak is a leak is a leak, and PVC pipes are PVC pipes. And so it doesn't really matter that the price you paid for the house is more or less expensive. The plumber is going to charge whatever the plumber is going to charge for their labor and their materials. So now we had that same two instances of $200 expenses. So that's going to reduce our cash flow from $4,200 to $3,800. Now let's see what happens to our cash on cash return as we compare $3,800 over our initial investment of $60,000. Well, now our cash on cash return, drops to 6.3%. So in this instance, we've only reduced our cash on cash return by 0.7%, versus on our initial property that had a $100,000 purchase price, we lost a full 2%. And so what you might notice is as you increase in purchase price, your cash on cash return as a metric will often decrease. Now, that's not true universally, but for a lot of single family homes in the same market, if we compare and contrast them against each other, again, sticking hyper local, we often see that that's the case. So as we increase the purchase price, our cash on cash return can often go down. Now, that being said, the dollar amount from a cash flow perspective of what we're actually putting in our pockets every single month on a larger, more expensive property that has a bigger rent will often go up. Now, let's think about that for a minute. On our initial property, we were making $150 a month cash flow. We were making a 9% cash on cash return, and it was a $100,000 purchase price. On our larger property, $300,000 purchase price, our cash on cash return was 7%. So a full 2% less because we bought a more expensive property. But the cash that actually went into our pocket every single month was $350. So significantly more from a actual dollar perspective. So when you're evaluating properties, it's really important to think about what's important to you. Am I trying to maximize the return that my dollars are earning me? Or am I looking to actually put hard dollars in my pocket? Because you can have instances where you are putting a lot of dollars in your pocket, but they're not working very hard for you. And you can have the opposite effect be true as well, where you have your dollars working super, super hard for you, but it just doesn't translate to a lot of dollars in your pocket because it's simple mathematics. And so what we saw in this example is on that $100,000 purchase price, our margin of error was really slim. We have a couple of things not go according to plan, and we start to see our cash on cash return metric tank. Versus this more expensive property, while the return might not be as attractive, the dollars that we actually get to put in our pocket are a little bit more robust. And so we might have a little bit more padding, a little bit more buffer, or a little bit more room for error. And so as you're evaluating properties for yourself, as you're looking to purchase additional investment properties, or maybe your first investment property, think about those kind of things because things don't always go according to plan. And so being able to have a plan B or a backup or a little bit more buffer, a little bit more dry powder in the keg, as we often like to say, that could be really useful. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. Feel free to like and subscribe to this channel so we can continue bringing you more content like this. And as always, we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Happy investing.